just as a disclaimer, this content applies to the entire state of California. It's general in nature. It's not legal advice. Your local area may have rules that are or additional requirements that we're not going to cover here today. So just want to mention that. But my aim really is to give you ideas, at least one, but hopefully many ideas that'll help you make in or keep more money than ever before. And really, the goal is that we would have the most successful group of apartment owners or rental property owners here in the state. And today we're going to cover number one way to eliminate 80% of deadbeat applicants, critical update on instant criminal reports, two new California requirements that owners need to be aware of, legal reasons that you can use to deny an applicant, and some forms. We'll go over some of the AOA forms. And, it's like 1 in 8 rental applications today are fraudulent based on some data that I saw. And so it really is important to have a system in place to screen applicants that's professional and efficient. And yeah, so here we are just getting into this. Number one statement to eliminate 80% of deadbeat applicants is this statement: we do background checks on all applicants. It's credit and background checks on all applicants. It's so easy, and it's something that you want to put in writing and communicate that with people and let it work for you, because it really does work. What some people are looking for, like majority of tenants are great, as you know, but those 1 in 8 are not, right? And so what you want to do is just show them that you're professional, that you know what you're doing. They're preying on the mom and pop that doesn't know what they're doing. And so hopefully even just a simple statement like that will have them realize, oh, this is someone that is going to actually look at everything. And I do want to give you just a critical update on the criminal reports. And we've communicated it over and over, especially since last year. But what's happened in California, because of the Fresh Slate Act that went into effect in 2023, there's kind of been a slow reaction within the different county court systems regarding criminal data. And so like LA County, if you look at it right now, what they did is they removed the charge sheet from the county criminal record, and for each of those crimes. So basically, what used to be the way that you would be able to identify that this Robert Jackson is the Robert Jackson that's actually your applicant would be with the date of birth and those other personal identifying pieces of information. Well, those things, they're not there anymore because they removed that. And so where software programs could crawl and find the data easily online, now it takes either going in person or getting the whole file sent to you. And so this is an issue, and it's not just for LA County. I'm going to share, guys, if you could share the screen here. And this is just on the AOA website. If you go to main menu, counties with redacted date of birth, you'll see it here. And basically, there's a whole list now. It's not just Los Angeles, Sacramento, Imperial, Alameda, like it goes down, Ventura, Orange County, Riverside only gives you the year. And so so you can go ahead and stop sharing that screen. But basically, there's just, the data is just not what it used to be. And so what we've done is we've come up, last year, we came up with the live investigator search. So we hired a private investigator, and they do a thorough search. They get the files sent to them, and they're able to look at the whole file and find more information. And lots of times, that is what they need. But did you know that an instant criminal search does not include a civil misconduct search? So lots of times like elder abuse, stalking, domestic violence, these things are not in the criminal report. They're actually in the civil. And so not only are they doing the criminal search, they're doing the civil. And that's super important, especially if you're multifamily and you don't want to put those kinds of applicants into your apartment. You want a peaceful, quiet, enjoyable environment for everybody. And you know, this is when we're talking about qualifications, the last thing that you want to look at is the criminal and that stuff. You really want to look at credit worthiness first. That first question is, are they able to pay the rent? And so that's the first question you want to address and do all the footwork on that before you do before you really are looking even at the criminal stuff. And there's certain states where where they even have made it a law that you look at credit worthiness first. And I think it's really a best practice. It's a whole lot easier to um, deny somebody based on the credit and the criteria instead of basing it on the criminal. And the way that our rental application is set up, we're asking these questions. And so lots of times you're rejecting them not because they have the criminal information, but because they didn't disclose it. That's really the reason why. So you got to start off on the right foot. If they're not telling you that they have a criminal record and they do, or that they had an eviction but they didn't tell you, that's just they're not starting off on the right foot, and that's definitely the reason why you want to reject them. All right, so on to the requirements. There's a couple new requirements that owners need to be aware of. One is AB 2493, and basically what they've done here is they've made it where if you can't charge if you don't have an available unit or within a reasonable period of time if you're not going to have a unit available, so you can't charge a fee. And then there's basically two options that you have now, where before you would just charge all applicants a rental application fee. You can do that, but you need to take one person at a time. So option one is you charge the fee, and when you charge the rental application fee, you're giving them the written criteria with that application form. So very important. If you're going to charge, give them your written rental criteria. So we have a worksheet that we're going to go over here in a little bit. And you have to take the first qualified applicant if you charge the fee. So that's option one. So option two, you're not required to take the first qualified applicant. If you return the fee to the applicants that are not selected within the lesser of 7 days after the tenant selection or a total of 30 days. So that's the second one. So you just don't take the fee up front or return the fee to the applicants that aren't selected within 7 days. So those are the two different options that you have now. Either way, you're really going to be doing yourself a favor and also the applicants a favor if they're able to know what your rental criteria are up front. And so definitely come up with that. It's a best practice. A lot of people will just realize that they don't qualify and move on. And that's just going to save everybody time and money, right? And then mandatory credit reports. And so this is another thing that not everybody's aware of. So within 7 days, now California law or federal law, I guess, within 7 days of receiving the report, you have to either personally deliver it, mail, or email the credit report to your applicant. And so don't wait to make the decision on whether you're going to rent to them or not. Get it to them. And there's California state law, it's called ICRA, where in certain instances it needs to be within 3 days. So just best practice, as soon as you get the report, give it to your applicant. And there is a form now that it's not that these laws weren't around existing, but there's new case law and there's new lawsuits. And so we've come up with a Form 100D that kind of puts together not only the federal, but also the state laws into one disclosure. And so I'm going to share my screen again. See if I can find. and show you this one. There it is, 100D. Get this nice and big. So this is Fair Credit Reporting, FCRA. So there's a disclosure statement, and this is a question that I get a lot is, what do I put here? Company name or owner name? And so that's your name. So if you're renting it, you put your name. If you have an LLC, put the name of the LLC, and you fill that out in these two spots. And I'll just go down to the next page. So this is background check and disclosure authorization for California. This is something that a lot of people aren't aware of that they need to do. So they give this disclosure. And this little checkbox here is for them to check. And if they check it, whether they check it or not, you need to give them the report, but it's just compliance. So coming up with that. And so there's this form goes on further than that, but that specific form is so important. So you have your rental criteria, you have your rental application, and you have this disclosure. So gosh, you thought they were environmentally friendly, but obviously not unless you're doing this stuff digitally. So those are questions that I'm sorry, those are all things that you need to be doing. When I talk to people, when I talk to different members, it seems like a lot of them are just not aware that this is even something that they need to be doing. Um, so that's that. You can stop sharing your screen. Thank you. And yeah, so then now we're going to move on to some of the legal reasons to deny an applicant. So federal fair housing law, it's referring to the Fair Housing Act of 1968, which is part of the Civil Rights Act, and it prohibits discrimination in the sale, rental, and financing of housing. And so we're talking about rentals. So we're talking race, color, national origin, disability, their sex, familial status, such as having children under the age of 18, and also source of income or funding, like so Section 8. These are all different reasons that you cannot discriminate against people. And I get calls all the time from members, and one member, they got a call from a applicant that is making a living off of this, basically, because they're looking for people. They're Section 8, and they're calling different owners and asking if they take Section 8. And so every one of them that says no, or kind of gives a kind of like a weak answer on that, like, well, we've never been set up for Section 8, but I guess if you give that response, if it's not a clear yes response, you're really endangering yourself to a lawsuit. And then in addition to people like that are making a living that way, you also have the mystery shoppers and that are looking for people that are going to deny Section 8. You cannot deny Section 8. You have to take their application. And there's some things that are specific to Section 8, and as we go through everything, we'll get there. And so with legal reasons to deny an applicant or not deny them, I think a great place to start with that is just the rental qualification form, criteria form that we have. It's called 100Q. And so let's go over that, and I will show you how to get that. When you're logged into your member portal, I will show you that, but not right now. But so there's the rental qualification criteria. If you could share that screen with us, then there we go. We can help everybody track through it. So you're just going to fill out, put in your property address here, and then here's the requirements. All right, so they need to be 18, and this favorable credit history with a minimum score of what? This is a question that can vary. It really depends on the type of property that you're in or that you're renting. So is it a Class A property? Is it in a good location? Is it in a bad location? So that score will be different. We do suggest 700. That's what we suggest. There are areas where you're not going to find anybody with a 700. And so it really kind of depends. There is a video, it's kind of fun, we put together. It has 3 different property management companies, and they just talk about their criteria. That's something that you could find in the member portal and look at that. But anyway, so yeah, so you have that. And so it's a minimum credit score, but there's different types. Like if you're using AOA, it has the FICO, and it's an old school FICO. There's different versions of credit scores. They're all credit scores, but so there's an old school FICO that we use because a lot of you are familiar with it. It's what you've been using for years, and so you're just measuring based on the same standard. But there's also others. There's a tenant risk score that we have. It's a newer scoring system, and it's 15% more predictive of evictions or non-payment. So it's weighting things differently in there. There's the Vantage score, and they all have the same range of 350 to 850, but there's different scores there. So when you run a credit report and you see a score, that score will vary based on which scoring model that you're using. And anyway, so just continuing along there. So for Section 8, like we said, there are certain things for Section 8 that you just can't do. So you cannot use the credit score for Section 8. It's the ability to pay. That's where that's where you have to make your determination. Can they pay this? Section 8 is coming up with a certain amount. Can the renter make their portion of the payment, their ability to pay? So you can look at bankruptcies, you can look at evictions, you can look at the residential references. If they have bad references, those are reasons that you can deny them. But credit score is not one of the reasons that you can deny them. All right, and then here, verifiable household income. So this is key there, verifiable. So it needs to be at least, and then we have a blank line here for you. And we would suggest 3 times rent, but there are certain areas where they're looking at 2.5 times rent. And so again, this is an area where if it's Section 8, it's treated a little differently. It's just their portion. Can they cover their portion of the rent, right? It's not the whole rent amount. And really, this is something that helps everyone. If a renter gets into a place that they can't afford, when the car breaks down or when life happens, they're not able to pay rent. And then that's going to wreck their credit history, and it's going to be stress on everybody, right? So 3 times the rent provides the cushion that people need to live and have things happen, but yet still be able to cover the rent. And this is the combined grossly monthly income of all leaseholders. So question that we get a lot is that gross or is that net of taxes? It's gross. And but another question that you could be looking at when you're actually looking at the credit report is what other debt obligations do they have? And so the debt to income ratio, those are all things that you'll want to look at that you could set criteria up for. And if you are using a cosigner, I've heard some paralegals say that they should have 5 times the rent, a FICO of 700 and at least 5 times the rent. That's, again, those things, it's up to you. And anyway, so you need a copy of the government issued ID. But before we get into that, yeah, the proof of income, so this is verifiable household income, right? So show me the money, proof of income. So 2 most recent pay stubs and 3 months worth of the bank statements. And if they're self-employed, then they should bring a copy of the past 3 years tax returns. Unreported cash income may not be a steady income. So it's very difficult to collect on people if they're only working with cash. So when you look at those bank statements, look at the other obligations that they might have, like alimony or other things. And one thing, I think we all know that Photoshop exists and that bank statements can be manipulated. And so if you want, one thing that you can do, AOA has a way to cross-check the bank statement. It's called income verification. And it's just part of the credit report. It's something that you can add, or in some of the packages it's there. So you can add that, and what happens is a link is sent to the applicant. They authorize software to pull information from their bank statement and put it into the credit report that you're looking at. And so this is a great way to eliminate the guesswork. And that is available for people that are set up for AOA tenant screening. And because it's sensitive credit information, it's one of those things that you do have to have a site inspection for. All right, and then the photocopy of the ID. Just remember that you can't photocopy a military ID, so don't take that. There are people that are, so internationals that are coming in, they may not have a photo ID. You can use the I-9 form and look at the different ways that people can prove their identity that way. The I-10 has the same number of digits as a social, and so that can about 50% of the of people can show up there even if they don't have a citizenship. All right, and then we keep going here. We say no prior unlawful detainers, evictions, or collection records for non-payment of rent. And so this is a thing that you want to include in your criteria. So all these things we have here, these are all legal reasons that you can deny people, no matter what. You can deny people for that. And judgments, on our eviction report, sometimes the judgments show up as well. And so look at those eviction reports carefully, but realize that there's not a single report that's catching everything. We've tried lots of different vendors, and we see that, the eviction reports they're not always 100% perfect either. Okay, so number 6 here, favorable references. So renter's insurance, this is something that you can require them to have, but they don't have to have it until they're going to rent, right? Favorable references. So this is another one. So they need unbiased sources, non-family members, right? And you just look into this. They may pretend like they're being the landlord, but go to Google, Facebook, get the phone number, make sure it's a real number. You can ask questions to the person to try to see if they're really an owner. Yeah. And so, so those are different things that you can do. Okay, a fully completed and signed rental application for each applicant. One thing that some people do is they will just say, like, one of their criteria is following directions. Like if they don't fill things out and things are kind of all over the place and they're not organized, that can be, if you wanted, that could be one of your criteria, but whatever you do, it just needs to be the same over and over again. All right, so that, and then of course, again, we said they must be 18 years or older. And then applicant must not have a criminal or civil misconduct conviction for crimes considered harmful to people or property unless exempted by local law. So like Berkeley area, like you can't use the criminal report, but this is a place that you'll want to, this is really important to look at that stuff because you have a duty to keep your renters safe. Oh, and then just getting back to the rental report, let me back up 1 second. We encourage people not to write notes on the application. Don't run the credit report without the rental application signed. Keep it for 5 years. Give it to no one. That's sensitive data. And so now on to the criminal. So Yeah, you can stop sharing that screen. Applicants, yeah, they can't have those things that are considered harmful to people or property. And so with HUD, I've heard some attorneys say, oh, you can't use the criminal record. Well, actually you can, but there has to be an individualized assessment, they call it. This is like a HUD recommendation. And so what you have to do is not just a blanket, if there's anything, it's a no. You have to look at it. And so um, you have to look at the nature of the charge or the offense. And so, like, definitely no felony drug manufacturing or conviction of a violent crime. Those are safe reasons to deny. Um, and then looking at whether the final disposition resulted in a guilty verdict or a plea, the amount of time that's elapsed from the date of the final disposition. And so, how have they done? Have they've been released from prison? Are they on probation, parole, whatever? So all those things go into that individualized assessment. And really it's a they would recommend that you use that for everybody, but for sure you got to use it for the people that are Section 8. But I would say it's just a best practice to look at all of that. It's just common sense. And I know a lot of people that have just gotten by without using the criminal, without doing any background check. Um, Now and then I get the members that really regret that really regret that. So just want to encourage you to make sure you have a duty to keep your people safe, your renters safe. So running that background check is so important. And one thing, the rental application fee now for 2025 is $62.92. And this is all just based on inflation. So every year that number goes up and up. Not that you need to charge that amount, but we have different forms for you that'll kind of show you how you're charging. So we'll go over that here in a second. So one of the ones that I want to go over is this packet is there's a forms packet. And so I'm going to log in here. If you can share my screen again. Gonna log in. So here's this account. I'm gonna log in. Here's the member. I'm gonna go to forms, and they have them grouped here. Like if I go to application forms, I'll pull this up higher. There's this application forms packet. And if I click on that, I can download it. I can download that bad boy. And then now I'm going to open. The way to open this thing, if you're using if you're using Windows, it can automatically just try to open it, like by default, open it in Edge, which is annoying. So if you right click on this and see mine, it's already set up, but if you do open with and then pick Adobe Acrobat, Acrobat's the one, it's free. You may have to download that to begin with, but here you can see that there are several different documents in here. And so we went over the qualifications for rental criteria. We did that one. And then there is a checklist, by the way. And so I'm going to share the checklist here. Background screening. Yeah, that checklist got real small. So there's a checklist here. So this is a crash course. I'm not going to go real detailed on this, but this is a good thing to look over. So for the application, going through this, the documents, the types of background checks, employment verification, rental history verification, did you speak with the references and all this? So this checklist is something that you might find handy. You may have things that you add to it. We went over the qualification criteria already. the rental application. You need to make sure that each of the applicants signs this. And the background check and disclosure we went over. And so the rental history verification, this is another form that you want to give to the current landlord to verify their history. And then authorization and verification of employment is another form that we have. This is another one that you want to give to have them have their employer fill out. And so all those are forms that you really should use. And there's also just even, so you can go ahead and stop sharing that screen. Also, you know, you need good interviewing questions. You're interviewing them. So usually on the phone, you can ask them questions, or when you have them viewing the property. I know a lot of people will not even give a rental application unless they viewed the property. And this is going to say another thing that's just going to save you time. But, you know, great tenant screening questions are open-ended. And not every open-ended question is a great one, but the best questions are open-ended. You know, so here's an example, like, why are you leaving your current residence? You know, and let them talk. Here's another one. What's one thing that you'd like to tell me right now that we're going to find out anyway when we run a background check on you? So those are just a couple example questions, but just wait and say nothing and just wait for them to volunteer information. And yeah, so those are things that you can do. And now I do want to go over, go back, if you could share the screen again. Let's see, we're going to be back on this home page here. Now, for some of you, you may have never signed up for the tenant screening before. When you log into your program, into your membership account, there's a place where you can click and fill out this application for tenant screening. So basically, you're submitting this online form, and then we're verifying your identity, and then there's a site inspection in some cases. And so if I go to the next step here, if you're going to do eviction and criminal reports, there's no other steps that you have to take besides filling out this form. And so if you want the live investigator, it's going to give you a skip trace. It's going to, you can have the eviction and instant criminal as well with just that selection. There's a no site inspection grade report, and this is just a letter grade. So I don't like highly recommend that. I would highly recommend the TransUnion credit report. So if you click on this one, basically you can do verify ID, which is a real easy way to get through it quickly. But if you don't do verify ID, then you have to provide a copy of the driver's license, a voided check, bank statement, something like that, and a phone bill. All those things need to match up. You know, the address needs to match up. And like if I go back here, this is where you find verify ID. So if I click on that, it takes you, this is a tool that TransUnion uses. The data is not saved. It's just used to verify your identity. And it saves you having to submit some of those documents. And then right below verify ID, you see the upload documents. So this is a portal where you can securely upload. So it's just 1, 2, click on the add files. And so here I have a bunch of files that I want to add. So I can pick these, driver's license, phone bill, these things. So I'm going to add them, and I'm going to start that upload, and then boom, those things are done. And so that's what it takes: verifying your identity, uploading the documents, and then that kind of gets you there with TransUnion. And then that site inspection, it is looks like it's 6720 right now. And I highly suggest the virtual site inspection because you can grab a time a lot faster. And basically it's a Zoom meeting and they want to see a room they want to see an office space. So whether that's a dedicated room in your home or whether that's an office that you have, they want to see that. And anyway, so you have that, you can pick that virtual site inspection and then just keep going. We do have Experian full credit reports as well. And those are great if you're like a property management company because you only need to do it once. But if you're a mom and pop, they want a site inspection every year. So that's just not feasible. And then you fill out that application and you keep going and you just keep going on that. So um, we have these different resources here. There's debt collection. We're going to have the rent reporting built into the program. It's being built into the program right now, but we've taken a whole lot of the rent reporting. Anyway, so I'm going to conclude with that and then take a look at the questions so we don't have to share the screen anymore. And those of you that are on Zoom, I want to take your questions first. And let's see what we have. I'm going to stop sharing because that helps me see things a little better in the chat. Okay, so in the chat, uh, Patricia, in terms of changing the fee, what about using a company like Rentspree when the applicant applies for the credit report and pays the fee directly? They receive their credit report directly. So yeah, so there's like TransUnion, different places where you can just have the renter or Zillow, the renter can pay for it. So yeah, all that works. So yeah, you need to take a credit report from somebody, but only if you're logging in somewhere. Don't take a credit report that someone's giving you, or it's a PDF or a piece of paper, because again, those things could have been messed with. And yeah, but I do see a whole lot of questions in YouTube. So I'll go ahead and get over these questions. Okay. Yeah, so same question, what if it's by Zillow? So yeah, you can take that credit report, but you have your own rental application that's different than Zillow's. So you can use that. Do you have to accept any other program besides Section 8 as proof of income? And that's a great question. And the answer is yes. So there's nonprofits that will be paying, and there's other government programs. And so, yeah, you do have to accept those. Okay. Next one, if I refer tenant to online credit check, okay, they initiate the, must I provide the ICRA form authorization and provide them the credit report? Yeah, because there's been a lot of not you can't assume that the tenant screening company that you're using is going to have these forms in place. And so there's been a lot of fines that the large tenant screening companies have been paying, and it's because they're not compliant. And that's one of the issues that they've had is not having that form. Sometimes some of them may have it. I know others are they're getting to a place where they're implementing it. But yeah, you've got to cover yourself. A lot of these tenant screening companies, they're not taking care of the state. They're good with the federal, but they're not really good with the state disclosures and things. Okay. Do you handle applicants who are foreign students who don't have credit history and are waiting for their work visa to be approved? Can you reject based on no verifiable income? So yeah, I guess you could reject for that, but also you could take 6 months to a year of the rent up front too. You can have them pay for the whole year up front, and that would be, I know that that's a way that people work with it. And lots of times the students, they have the funding, but it's just kind of up to you. on that one. Boardwalk. Can you discriminate from taking the application for sight unseen applicants? Yeah, I think you can require that they visit the site, that they actually look at the apartment. So yeah, that was one of those things where if people aren't seeing the place, how can they really know what it is? So yeah, you can. Um, Glenda, Glenda, the law restricted landlords from using evictions during or after COVID issue. Has that been waived? So the way that I understand the law, I believe it says that you can't use COVID rent debt against a renter. So it's COVID rent debt. So when you're looking at those, I'm glad you brought that up. If you're looking at the bankruptcy, is it related to COVID? Is it or not? So, or that collection, is it related to COVID or not? So that's something where if it is related, then you have to overlook it. Yeah, oh, great. Yeah, Daniel, great question. Do you have an adverse action notice? So yes, we do have one. And yeah, so that's a form that we have on the website. So like you saw, I opened up packet 99 there. There's also in the application part, there's a packet, there's a adverse action. And so what's an adverse action? So if you're specifically denying someone based on something that's in the credit report, then you would fill that out. If you're looking at a lot of different applicants and you're just picking one that's better, you don't necessarily have to fill out an app. You don't have to do the adverse action. You just say, I picked someone, a different renter. Uh, but yeah, you can fill that out if it's specific to the credit report as a reason that you're rejecting them. Okay. Do you still advocate to rent parking space separate from renting an apartment? There are for certain buildings, it's required that you do that. I think it's the newer buildings that are required. I think from 2023 or 2024, the buildings that are built from there on, it's a requirement. And as far as advocating for that or recommending that, you could go either way on it. And yeah, so I'm not gonna say include it in the rent or don't include it in the rent. Okay, Steve. In a multifamily apartment building, can we reject an emotional support dog due to barking noises? So I want you to take a look, Steve, at we have an animal addendum. And so just because they're an ESA does not mean that they can misbehave. And so we have some guidelines that are in that, and you want to give that, it replaces the pet agreement, and it covers both emotional support animals and pets. But but yeah, like that would be, just look at that form and it'll help you a lot with that, I think. And it is definitely a touchy subject, so I would speak with an attorney for sure. Okay, George, can you cover again the tenant reporting options to comply with the new bill? And so yeah, so two options. One, you process one person at a time, and you are taking the fee, you're processing it, and if they meet the criteria, you're giving it to them. So that's option one. Option two is you don't take the fee, you process several at a time, and you pick the best one. So those are the two different options that you have. With option one, you need to give the rental criteria upfront with the rental application so that they know what's going on. And of course, you can go back to the video and just replay that part again, but that's how it works. I hope that gets it for you. All right. Can a non-Section 8 applicant rent the apartment after a Section 8 tenant has already viewed it? Um, Yeah, it's all in the application process. If you haven't taken the a payment from the one, yeah, you can rent. I think that one is there's a lot of different conditions or things that could be going on. So I have a hard time saying yes, no to that. But yeah, just because they viewed it doesn't mean you have to hold it for them forever. Uh, yeah, ask an attorney with your specific situation. Okay, Robert, what are reasons we can reject Section 8? Again, like you have bankruptcies, bad referrals from previous landlords, criminal history after an individualized assessment. Those are reasons that that you could reject. They have to be 18, right? Well, I guess Section 8, they're not going to be 18. Okay, can we pass trash fees and raised HOA fees along to tenants? Yeah, I'm not gonna, that question right now, I'm not prepared to answer. I, yeah, yeah, so I'm not gonna, I think on new tenancies, I think you could, but yeah, like give us a call. Right now that my brain's not working there right now. Okay. KFT properties. Where are you standing? What you Were you stating earlier that we must provide a copy of the credit report to the applicants or only when an applicant requests a copy? And so, yeah, California law now is give it to them whether they ask for it or not. The ICRA form has a checkbox. And so where they can choose to request it or not. So these are just like overlapping laws that don't mesh together perfectly. So whether they ask for it or not, you need to give it to them within 7 days. There are some instances where you need to give it to them within 3 days per the ICRA. And anyway, so yeah, it's a little bit confusing, and there's definitely been some litigation around that. So just make sure you're giving it to them. And the HOA fees, another, just to circle back to that one, it also depends on how your rental agreement is drawn up. And I know that the newest AOA rental agreement does have a section that relates to the HOA stuff. Okay, the George is asking about the positive rent reporting, the 20, that's, I think it's AB 2747. And so, yeah, this is in the new rental agreement that we have, or the 2025 rental agreement. And yeah, if you have a built, you need to have it in there whether you're subject to it or not. But if you have a building that's 16 units or more, you need to offer it at least. It is a great way to reward good tenants anyway, but you mark subject to or exempt from that. You offer it to them, and what's the best way so the best way to comply is use the newest AOA lease along with Form 127A, and which is the form for positive rent reporting. So that's the best way to comply with it. If you get renters that do want to do it, you can do it through AOA, and you can also do it through the property management software that we have. So there's two different ways that you could do it, and that would be how you'd comply with it. Okay. I don't have a tax. Oh, I don't have a fact. If I don't have a fax, the mailed copy arrives later than, oh, it arrives later than 3 to 7 days. How do I give them a copy of the report? Um, for the AOA reports, you definitely can log into your member account, and under tenant screening, there's view reports. You can save it as a PDF and then either print it out or email it to them, or securely, however you want to get it to them. Okay. Can Section 8 applicants be denied for no income if document criteria request pay stubs? So yeah, it's income source. So if Section 8's paying the full amount, then you wouldn't be able to deny them because they don't have a a pay stub. They have a source of income outside of themselves. Bill, if you rent a couple to a couple with a teenager, what steps and or processes should be completed when the minor turns 18? And so, yeah, that's a good question. And seems like they should fill out they're not going to have any credit, but they could fill out the rental application just so you have their information on file and get a photo ID for them as well. So those are things that you could do. All right, let's see. No one else I don't think I see. Okay, oh wait. Now I think there's other questions here. Okay. And you guys, if you want to ask your question, just raise your hand and we can do a video. It's a little more engaging. In terms of changing the fee, what about using a company? Okay, yeah, we did that. What's your opinion on taking grand tours? Yeah, like you can. Um, you can take an applicant asked if he could receive a W-9 form, an I-9 form as a colleague will be funding several months of the rent. Are we required to offer this? Mm, if they're going to be on the lease or if they're the guarantor on the lease, I guess. I have a question regarding like a cosigner submitting an application. Can an applicant cosigner provide a copy of the tax return for the rental application? Or is the proof of income through monthly bank statements sufficient? So the 3 bank statements should be sufficient. If they're independent contractor, then, in business for themselves, then 3 years of the tax returns could be used. And again, like we covered it, we did talk about that, but just that they should have 5 times, their income should be 5 times what the rent is because they have their own obligations, but they also have to take care of this person. Cosigner is not a good idea. If the applicant did not qualify, you can reject them. However, once you accept one cosigner, you cannot deny another. So good point there. But I think you can have an applicant fill out a application and the cosigner, i.e. parent, fill out an application if the applicant does not have sufficient funds or a job, right? Yeah, so the cosigner is going to fill that out for sure. So you're taking them through the process. Once you accept one cosigner, you cannot deny another or you will, because you may face discrimination. So yeah, whatever your policies are, keep them consistent. We have a wonderful tenant, pays rent on time. He just got married and his wife will be moving in with him. We will ask for an application. Not sure her credit is good. Yeah, so there they are. So, and then just get the application, get a photocopy of their ID, and that'll help. Is there a sample copy you can show of AOA credit reports? I've been using a company where the applicant inputs their information and directly pays, and I directly receive a report through the agency. Was looking into using AOA. So yeah, I can share that real quick. Let me share this screen again. And all right, we there? If you guys could share the screen, there we go. So this is what the rental application looks like. I'm sorry, the credit report. So you give us the information and then we come up with a credit score. Here, like it's a grade letter and it's based on criteria. And I'm kind of glad that you brought up that question. I'm going to log back in and show you like where you can adjust the criteria. So if 700 credit score is not right for you, you could change that. and all these different things. There's a lot of different things that go into that grade report, but yeah, so that's where the grade report is derived from those different criteria. And there's a telecheck that we do, which is there's a database of checks. And so if a check has been bounced, they're going to find that. So that comes up now and then. And the eviction and civil records. So these are just a snapshot here showing you everything. There's criminal records. And so just going through, there's the person's name, their address. And so there's a ID verification that comes through, summary of accounts. There's 5 positive here, 7 negative, and a summary. Their trade lines, creditor records. These are revolving accounts. And so seeing what they owe and the payments that they're making, all this is really good. Revolving accounts, creditor records, and payment records. So it's going to go into a lot. Collection items, it's going to show that. Inquiries that they may have had. There's a most wanted list, terrorist, sex offender, all these different things. And then we actually use 2 different eviction reports, 2 different companies. And so, these are both coming up. And the prior address history that comes with a lot of our reports. And this is great for just knowing where they lived and seeing if they've been giving you the full story. There's instant criminal report. There's a county criminal report that you can do, either the county or you can do the live investigator that's doing everything. Income verification, it's going to show you. It's actually pretty extensive what it shows. And so yeah, like these are all different data points on that. And so yeah, that's the credit report. The live investigator comes back a little differently. It takes some time. And but yeah, so that's the credit report real quickly. And there's a whole lot there. So yeah, thank you for that question. And I'll stop sharing. Okay, one new message. Okay. Do you think a credit report through a source such as Zillow is sufficient for the credit? Yeah, like I think it's fine. It's the instant criminal reports that are, like I said, just across the board. It doesn't matter what company you're using. They're just because of what's happened in California. It's just they're just not as good as they used to be. All right, I think I got everybody. Anyway, I appreciate you guys so much and really enjoy seeing you at the in-person seminars, and hope maybe we'll see you in San Diego. Maybe we'll see you in Pasadena. We do have the trade show coming up as well on April, what is it, August 20th, I think, or 22nd. So that'll be in Long Beach. So there's a lot of different reasons to see you in person. And we're going to have some great stuff here, hopefully some good resources for you just as apartments are turning over right now. And so hopefully we'll see you next week. Zillow credit report is never a good idea. So I don't know what experience you had with them that you didn't like, but um, there's an opinion. But again, we just want to give you good information, ideas. So I hope this was helpful. And again, it's not legal advice. You can always talk to an attorney. People are going to have different ideas and different opinions. Okay, one. AOA tenant screening is great. Thank you very much. You guys are awesome. Um, anyway, again, just so thankful for all of you, and I hope you have a great rest of the week, and take care. Bye-bye.